Dark Zero, Oxygen, and TSM looking across the board. So it could be kind of a sleeper map for both of these teams being their picks, and we're going to find out if that'll be the case right now as the bans have just gotten started. So let's head in and take a look. Soniqs are going to immediately knock out Ace as their first attacker ban.
Not a bad way to start off the ban process here, as we'll throw it in Disrupt's hands right now for their 2 bans to see how much the offense will be hindered. We're taking Maverick on the board, but that means we're going to be leaving the Thatcher up. This is something that was highlighted on the analyst desk, that most notably Reed not the best when it comes to playing that operator.
See our first defender ban coming up here in a second. These have kind of fallen in line as of late since we've seen Echo got knocked out, and Momai's been a pretty common one that we've seen being knocked out of the pool when the opportunity presents itself. Him combined with Jaeger has been a very annoying combo, and this is usually the second one that follows it up. Maestro coming in there, like I talked about, Echo is currently banned for technical reasons, so he is in quarantine for the foreseeable future. Maestro getting banned out is usually the second choice in that respect, as he's a very similar operator with regards to the utility that he brings to the table. Better just knock those both out, and now the attackers don't have to deal with them at all.
All right, well, hopping into the first round in between the Soniqs and Disrupt, a matchup that I've been actually extremely excited for coming into this week. Obviously, whoever loses in this matchup will go on to face E United later this week. But I think that these two teams, for what we've had within the last 2 stages with them, I want to see which one of them has improved the most. Both of these teams have had their problems. Obviously, Disrupt, like we talked about earlier, making their roster moves to try and fix that. It really hasn't solved the problem, though. They still seem to have some issues when it comes down to the later half of the round. As they said in the video, you know, just the playmaking isn't there right now. I feel like Disrupt just needs to get back to playing what they know best and trying to play around each other instead of just putting so much time into these strategies, which they have been working out extremely well, but it all obviously comes down to that playmaking ability at the end of the day to find a lot of success.
On the Disrupt side of things, I think we saw a pretty encouraging last week from them, so hopefully they're going to be able to carry that performance over into the matchup versus the Soniqs. They as well have been looking to improve their own game, though. Like I said, both these teams are in very similar footing for me personally right now, so this is very much the deciding match that'll put at least the one team over the other at the end of the day in kind of my personal head rankings. It's a little bit harder to decipher these sorts of things in a long game, one because the teams don't always match up against each other, and yeah, we just kind of have long gaps between when they do often face each other, but very much want to see which one tops out the other potentially for the foreseeable future here. So let's take a look, see how the opening round goes. And right off the bat here, we do have a little bit of pressure from Disrupt trying to drone things out at the construction tunnel. Not going to be a massive amount of pressure being put on there, though. This is often kind of a trap for the attackers, that they try to put all this pressure on here very early on in the round to drain out the utility, but oftentimes either fail to drain said utility or just waste too much time doing so. So instead, we're going to see Disrupt with a lot more pressure over towards the tower side as well, probably to set up at least 1 or 2 of their players on the backs there so they can start to draw the eyes away from that construction tunnel a little bit, and that will maybe open up better ways for them to be able to work a push in that direction. We could see some pressure also possibly get applied to the hatches. Now that's going to get opened by Retro here at any moment.
Yeah, nice setup here from Disrupt so far. I like how they're pressuring those back stairs like you were talking about. Need to handle that pillar area in the proper manner, because if you don't, then you're obviously going to end up losing a lot of important bodies on that offense. And Disrupt been pretty strong on offense throughout the season so far. Obviously their favored side, like we heard them talking about earlier, so we'll see if they can possibly get some assistance here. I will say this though, J9 bringing the secondary hard breach on the Capitao. This is something that we haven't seen brought to Oregon just yet, or as much as we've been seeing it on some other maps, specifically Cafe. We've been seeing a lot of that secondary hard breach.
It's iconic. Gonna get forced back, at least behind the breached wall for now. Don't hear the reinforcement yet, though, so he hasn't completely given that up, if that is indeed Sonic's operating procedure. They do have a mirror window on it, though, so it's likely that it would get left open anyway, just because they can also play off the mirror window. So iconic, he's been able to move back out, though, prepping that nitro cell to get thrown against the inevitable push that I'm sure he's expecting from Disrupt, and you can see it broiling. They've now rotated the players back to tunnel, like I was talking about before. They've got a 3-man setup ready to move in here. That first ADS on the right side of of the wall has already been dealt with, but still a little bit more to deal with here. And NJR is going to get absolutely destroyed. I believe that might have been Slevin that pulled that feed off there. Is going to be able to down him. Not kill him outright just yet, though. But regardless, Slevin still has very solid control over this position. And he's got potentially 2 ADSs supporting him. It's a little too close to the smoke charges. So he's going to take a tad bit of damage from that. Had an opportunity on the swing there for a second, but doesn't take it. Thankfully, Gomfi's around. He's able to assist as well. J9O, however, will strive as he swings around the corner and makes quick work of Slevin after a very long build-up there. Gomfi now taking the reins here, trying to fend off any pressure coming from the hatch room, but as of yet has not had to face off against much. We're down to 15 seconds. Disrupt seem to be holding, but there's a reason behind that madness here, is it's allowing them to potentially lead into much better kill angles, and it works out beautifully. 3 to 4 kills in a row at the end of the round for Disrupt, and they take it solidly at the end of round number 1.
Some fantastic patience there from Disrupt, and Soniqs just getting a little bit too ahead of themselves and not worried about that freezer hallway, which Disrupt immediately capitalizes on. So some great stuff by them to eventually work into Pillar. We didn't think it was going to work out too well with just how long the Soniqs were allowed to exist there, but eventually the tunnel push working out for Disrupt. Some solid stuff to start us off here.
Very, very solid stuff indeed. Like I said, a little bit worried about their actual ability to get in there, but it seems like all of that hesitance was mainly to gather intel and really make sure that when they were going to go in here, they weren't going to run into any solid setups from the Sonic side and just get torn apart by that. Beautiful stuff indeed. Works out perfectly when it finally explodes out onto the site, especially being able to get pillar control so quickly. Like I was saying at the beginning of the round, that's where a lot of teams often get tripped up and are really unable to get past that choke point, but didn't really seem to be much of an issue at all there for Disrupt due to the nice pick that they got onto Slevin. Now we're going to see a change up from the Sonics. No reattempt made on that site due to the ease with which Disrupt was able to get access to it. So instead, they're going to head up to Kids and make a second effort here.
Well, some interesting stuff brought by the defense here. Iconic and Super bringing out the Warden as well as the Frost. Frost, an operator that we don't see have too much limelight inside of the pro play and pro scene in general, but we are going to have some pretty nifty areas to set these down. It seems like they're mostly focused about double window, as well as any attic pressure, just to try and catch them off guard if Disrupt wants to go for something a little too aggressive early on, and more than likely end up with their leg caught. So nice little setup here from Super. Pretty cheeky stuff to start us off on round 2.
Now, I need to see if that was 6 pick. I was checking some stats on an
indeed.
alt tab, but more than likely, regardless of the 6 pick, thank you by the way, it's going to get discovered pretty quickly. This is indeed a Frost, so it's very unlikely to like catch anyone off guard here, especially once they actually spot the Frost with one of their drones. It's more than anything just going to mean that Disrupt has to kind of double check things before they make any moves, simply because you're going to have those traps below windows, as we saw right at the top of the main stairs and stuff like that. And if you're not checking for it, well, that's just a free loss player, and at this level, it's kind of unacceptable. So you need to make sure the Disrupt are on top of that, because if not, Sonics are definitely going to get away with this 6 pick and probably find quite a bit of assistance from it, considering where they've been placed, as they're in pretty crucial positions.
I think that's a really good point to bring up, though, John, that it's mostly leaning on Disrupt having an error inside of their drone game.
Yeah.
And Disrupt so far has actually been very patient if we're going to base it off of that first round. Obviously, there's a long road ahead of us here inside of this series, but I don't think Disrupt is exactly just going to go full bore, try and hop in the window and get caught in a bear trap. We'll have to see how it goes. They are droning out the area. We saw a drone right outside the double window, but still good patience from Sonics as well as Disrupt so far, just making sure to dot their T's, or excuse me, dot their I's and cross those T's.
CJ90 looking for an entry opportunity here at the big window. Nothing revealing itself just yet, as Sonics are playing that specific angle in a very passive fashion. That overall playstyle does tend to align pretty well with what they're doing across the rest of the map as well. We do have 1 to 2 players extended a bit more, and Super is playing this setup on top of the bed that we've seen more and more teams start to use over the past few weeks. We saw Dark Zero use it to pretty good efficiency. I believe we were seeing Tempo try to use it quite a bit as well last week, and now Sonics are picking it up as well. Probably not for the first time either. It's the first time I've picked up on it personally. Slevin is on a pretty long roam game right now. He's got himself all the way out to Small Tower. Disrupt are aware of his presence due to the drone he just destroyed. Now NJR has got the right idea about where he's at, and he's going to be able to take him down, although suffering some pretty heavy damage from it. Nonetheless, the job is done though, and Disrupt get themselves off to a good start, possibly able to push it a little bit further here as well, putting some more damage onto him easily there, as he's going to go down to about 25 HP.
Well, the drone economy pretty harmed here for Disrupt as they're working their way in, but Retro's already rotated all the way to Trophy, and he's going to get two big kills to start himself off after that rotate. So Disrupt now in the driver's seat here, trying for the perfect round, but NJR gets down to the top of white as Gomfy's the only man remaining inside of Kids' dorms. Nitro still out. Can it get both? It only gets one, but Shuttle with the immediate refrag. Disrupt 2 rounds up.
Good attempt from Gomfy there, but unfortunately the roam game falling apart along with the free entry back over by Master side made it a very easy task for Disrupt to clear out the rest of the site, get in and be able to control things very similarly to how they closed out the first round as well. So things are looking great right now for Disrupt's attacking game. Now in that round specifically able to find a nice hole to pierce through, and like I said, made the rest of the round pretty easy after that.
Well, there's some big problems there for the Soniqs when it came to that late round, John. And I think that the biggest problem was that they didn't have anybody prepared for anyone to rotate over towards the top of main. They assumed that Disrupt was going to stay around white and just try and pressure through the double as well as the top of white stairs. And that's not exactly what happened. Soniqs, just once again, little too tunnel vision on the initial push from Disrupt. I'd like to see someone try and make that rotate to assist with the squad while they're trying to hold the front line. Move to that back line, worry about that flank. You know it's going to be coming eventually. That's how Disrupt has gotten a lot of this pressure here inside of these last 2 rounds. It's just these late round executes by somebody getting a nice little, niche pick.
Taking a look at the Sonic setup, of course, as they go back down to the basement. Very similar setup to what we've seen before, as the operators are looking very similar as well. We see same mirror windows too, so it's looking like Soniqs are very much going to pull out the same strategy that they did back in round number 1 and try to see if it works out for them. We do have that Malusi sitting on the wall. I don't think that was there back in round 1, although I may be misremembering it.
Well, Disrupt out onto the field now. Plenty of utility here for the clear. Mostly dedicated to the stun grenades, some frag grenades, the usual lineup that we expect them to bring. Reed once again onto the Thatcher, but this time some improvement that we've seen so far. Disrupt obviously up 2 rounds right now. Soniqs not getting anything, and Reed 2-0-0. So things looking up for Disrupt so far.
I mean, Retro as well at 4-0-0 as well. We got quite a few players that are doing some fantastic work right now for the Disrupt side of things. And like I've mentioned, I'm kind of starting to sound like a broken record on this at this point too, but mainly on the entry game, Disrupt have been doing a fantastic job. They've been a little slow to get to that point in the round, but when they have found the opportunity, man, they have struck true, and they've usually have had their entry go 2 for 1 for trades at a minimum, if that player even goes down, which so far that player has not gone down in this case. So they were looking very, very good with regards to their entry game at this point. Soniqs, of course, still playing it passively as you often need to do on the basement hold, of course. Their hold doesn't look bad. The problem is there's a lot of intel going over to the Disrupt camp, and they're using that to just storm in here with the and storm in with really good efficiency too. Gomfy's going to take some damage off of a nade, it looks like. Will get brought down to right over 50 HP as a result of that. He loses his shield too, which is going to make playing here behind the pillar especially more awkward because of the softball. It's already been partially destructed, and the fact that he also has to watch out for pillar pressure. Slevin, though, will hold strong, taking out the first target yet again here in the basement hold.
Well, that's a nice pickup here for Slevin, taking down NJR, taking away a lot of that soft destruction. The grenades have already been used from Shuttle as well, so this Goyo shield is just going to exist on the door here for quite some time. No real chance to try and get rid of it unless I want to try and bolt the man from behind it and apply some pressure. We've seen Disrupt have these late round executes throughout this entire map so far, so this probably not going to be stranger to the situation that we've been seeing them present throughout this. Still have 3 EMPs on Reed here, and this actually could help out quite a bit. There's a huge nitro cell that goes out from Iconic. No one ready for that. The repeat, but Iconic right on the tailcoats. It's Gomfy to actually pick up the frag, but not before Iconic can pressure from behind. They're not even worried about him. It's a flawless round for the Soniqs as they pick up every single body inside of construction.
Great stuff with the pillar hold, along with the people that were holding on the inside of electrical as well. Didn't really let the Disrupt get an inch that time, which was the dangerous part about round number 1, was that inch was gotten with relatively minimal effort. This time they do a much better job of denying any pressure coming from the back stairs or that construction tunnel, and as a result of that, the Soniqs have a much easier time holding things as well. The removal of NJR right off the bat, as Stokes was mentioning, took away their capability to deal with all the shields that were on both of the angles they had to deal with trying to push in from that tunnel, and it just made the effort of trying to move in, trying to get any sort of map control from that point, a massive effort that Disrupt unfortunately weren't ready to take on.
Yeah, just kind of a botched utility usage there by Disrupt, just because they use those grenades so early on Shuttle. I don't know exactly what he was using those for. We didn't see really any utility burn happen from Disrupt. I mean, we still had pillar control by the Sonics. We still had, construction door. There was a lot of things there for the Sonics that were very, very positive. Most importantly, the crosses that they were able to hold on the construction double door. That was really the nail in the coffin up against Disrupt. So for Disrupt, it just goes back to the basics, get that utility where it's supposed to be, and try and bide your time and account for where you want to use these things. Having NJR die so early on and then not having Shuttle have his frag grenades anymore was the biggest problem for Disrupt that they could have faced. You have to continually try and peek Sonics members as they have those shields, and that's never going to be a good time.
All right, well, let's see if Sonics can continue to round around this comeback here. They're going to try their second attempt up on the second floor now. This is where Disrupt, like I said, was able to find kind of a free entry by moving in through top stairs because Sonics was a bit tunnel visioned on their setup. They didn't necessarily have someone ready to watch that, or at least not at that point in the round. They weren't checking it, so they were able to swing in relatively easily, and the defense kind of collapsed in on itself from that point forward, despite some valiant attempts by the remaining players of the Sonics. Obviously, a pretty easily correctable mistake, so I doubt Disrupt are going to be able to win the round in similar fashion yet again, but at least on the opener, the overall flare is looking somewhat similar for Disrupt here. The diffuser is going to get dropped right at big window, which means we can expect some pretty immediate pressure to come from the roster in that direction. Other players are stacking themselves. You can see Reed right now, of course, just outside of Big Tower, but Sleben is here as well to potentially counteract the pressure from Reed should you decide to go in. Other players still working their way in from the small tower area, as you can see from NJR and Shuttle, so Disrupt are kind of keeping their options open, but it does look like pressure from the west is going to be a mainstay for this round for them.
Well, for the Sonics, it's mostly pressure down the stairs that Disrupt's going to have to clear. Definitely got to be worried about Super downstairs inside of Kitchen. He can have a lot of effect on what's going on up top here, especially when in tow with Sleben. This roam game we've seen before by these two, and almost every single time they're not cleared out, they end up getting a really, really nice flank off that begs them quite a few kills and ends up winning them the round. So we'll see if Disrupt can possibly thwart their plans or just have a strong flank watch to try and get this plant down. Disrupt still focused on double window with plenty of bodies outside working those angles. Have to worry about the Warden immediately inside though, as both flame bolts come out from J9 to start us off, but none of those are going to be touching Gomfy as he continues to exist on the double window. Runs right back into the frag grenade there, as I'm assuming he was worried about the angles coming from the double, but nevertheless he's been taken down.
Yeah, Gomfy just could not find a safe spot to stand there, unfortunately, so he becomes the first victim on this round. Disrupt once again get off to a swinging start, but are they going to be able to carry it forward? That is always the big question when the team gets their initial man advantage to work off of here. Down to a little under a minute remaining for the Disrupt roster, so certainly not stretched for time as of yet, but as you can see from our top-down view, there's still quite a few kind of problem areas that Disrupt have to deal with before they're really able to start this entry, one of those being draining out the smoke charges from Easily. He's only just used the first one, and we're down to 30 seconds, so we can kind of spam these at this point, but nonetheless, Retro once again making some progress for Disrupt here. He's able to take out another player. That's going to be, I believe, Iconic going down there. Sleben tries to fall back to the top of the kid's stairs, but is going to get shut down. Yeah, indeed. It's going to get shut down by NJR. This is a potentially big mistake, though. Easily gets away with 2. Oh! No! Make it 3 as well, but NJR is going to shut him down, taking him out and still giving the round over to Disrupt at the end of the day, and despite a very nice attempt from Easily to clutch it out.
That man was laying in his friend's corpse. That was something else. Oh my goodness. 2 quick shots of the SMG-11. But hey, I mean, not the best round overall by the Sonics, despite valiant efforts there by Easily. Just some really, really nice pickups from Disrupt once again. This late round execution really working out for them, John. And I think that the thing for me is it's really leaning on that information game. We see them continually get up to the point where they could execute super early if they wanted to, right? But they get the diffuser set up, get their windows open, and then start working the map with that intel to know how they want to go about it. They know that it's not going to be the same every time. Sonics wants to try and adjust their plans, so they need to adjust their plans too. And they've just done a better job throughout this series so far of being on top of
And
it.
this is as well, despite the fact that, from what I can tell, Sonics have been doing a pretty good job of taking out the drones and trying to eliminate them. It doesn't really seem to matter that the drone economy at the end round state does not look that great for Disrupt, because it seems at that point they seem to have all the intel anyway. And the folks on Sonics are either not changing their setups or just unable to change their setups for whatever reason to counteract that information. So it's maybe much more of a reason as to why Sonics not necessarily able to pick up any sort of impact in the early round and even the mid round game as well. We're going live once again, though, folks. It looks like we do have everybody back in the server, so let's head back in game and take a look, as we do have that repeat of the second floor coming up yet again here for the Sonics.
Do indeed. Very nice call there, my friend. So, Sonics not shifting too many things up. Super coming back with the Malusi. Still going to have Slevin on the Vigil. Well, we are going to have a 6-picket come in from Easily. Last time we saw him on the SMG-11. I believe he was on the Smoke, not the Mute. This time around, though, he'll be over onto the Goyo. So bringing some more shield play in here. And that honestly could help them out quite a bit inside of that utility dump department. I mean, we've seen Disrupt have these really, really nice executes. Bringing Goyo and adding a couple more shields to the defensive lineup is just going to give them more areas and lines of sight to work with, to where they can be more aggressive once Disrupt goes for that execute on site.
I think it's another good way to look at the whole delay situation too, because I'm imagining that's part of what the Frost was trying to do a couple rounds back, was hopefully trying to just kind of slow down the overall attack from Disrupt, make them have second thoughts before attempting something, and maybe they give away a tell before they do that, so the Sonic can move on that. The Goyo is going to kind of do that same thing, but in a much more obvious fashion than that. You'll get a nice big explosion queue before the players are actually able to move in there. So it's going to be interesting to see how this is set up, because it can kind of work against you a little bit. The site can be a little bit claustrophobic for the defenders if their shields aren't set up properly, but with the way that Sonics have been playing it, I don't imagine that's going to be a massive issue.
Attackers have dropped the bomb diffuser. Attackers
It's
have
just
recovered
been
the diffuser.
so interesting to watch so far between these two. Noticing some trends throughout Oregon inside of Stage 2. To start us off, a lot of teams favored the big tower clear into the master take in order to get those walls, as well as control attic and go for the games plan. We've seen every single team inside of the NAL do that, but now a lot of teams favoring this small tower take. It's actually been really, really potent. A lot of teams not able to deal with it on defense. It's been mostly leaning on what you're able to produce downstairs, specifically where we see Super and Slevin holding down, as well as the dorms area upstairs. So if you're able to hold on to those two areas for an extended period of time, you more than likely have a very nice shot at winning out this round. The Sonics have also adjusted a couple of other things here. We see Gomfi has been moved over into games with some holes to play for those toxic smokes towards the double window. So obviously still a lot of time on the board for Disrupt to really make any adjustments needed. Let's see how they try and work this.
A little under half the round being played out here. We should be kind of used to seeing a whole lot of not actually having action at this point here, considering we're on round number 5. Taking a look at things so far, Disrupt, once again, you can, I mean, just as we scroll around the players, right, you can see like 2 to 3 of them on drones trying to gather intel. This is exactly the same game plan Disrupt's been working with up until this point, and it's been going quite well for them. And see Gomfi here waiting to see if he's going to get any action either through the game room window or, of course, coming up those back stairs there. Shuttle's got his nade primed and ready to go, but this time not going to land truly, as there is not a player holding in that position on this round as there has been in the past. They were able to get a free kill last round as a result of that, and unfortunately Gomfi's inability to get out of there without killing himself in the process, so had to kind of take the L on that fight. Right now, those Sonics holding on pretty well, continuing to kind of waste down the time and try to delay Disrupt to the best of their own capabilities. Although we can see that walk-in starting to get opened a bit, that means that we're more than likely getting closer and closer to Disrupt's point where they're going to feel comfortable to execute here.
Yeah, this is where the Sonics need to bend and not break, continually running into these problems on these late round executes. Disrupt has everything open and are ready to try and apply pressure where it's needed, but it seems that the Sonics have already adjusted for this. Super still maintaining presence downstairs, which seems to be NJR's main game plan. Clear this out, make sure his team can survive and get this plant down. Can't possibly have anybody be Nitro Celled. He kills one, or actually ends up downing one on the top of White Stairs, but it's immediately refragged by Super. So Slevin no longer existing, but also Super not worried about somebody else coming downstairs and gets taken down himself. It's Disrupt all over the board once again, as they just walk right in, take the site, kill everyone, and walk away with round 5.
And once again, I'm very impressed with the actual take there from Disrupt. Based on the round up until that point, it does not look like things are going to go well for them. You have Super with a good position underneath the big window to deny their usual plant position that they had been going for on past attacks to that site. And then a pretty solid setup within the site itself. It may look like they were just just going to be able to trade to win after they denied the initial plant. But it's kind of the opposite that happens, because I believe it was Shuttle that inserts himself into the fight and is able to take out Super before he can make any of that impact. That just opens the floodgates for the rest of the team. And that, along with the great work that they were doing through those half breaches at the walk-in, made it very easy for them to take gunfights and win them. And then obviously get map control through that avenue and eventually take control. Great stuff from Disrupt here. They're looking very strong on Oregon attack.
Yeah, absolutely. Checking all of the boxes, and that's something that they've highlighted throughout all of Oregon so far, is just patience. They continue to work the map, get the intel that they need, and they make sure that they have backup plans for if anything goes wrong. I mean, we saw Disrupt members get picked off downstairs trying to clear the roam from the Soniqs, but then it immediately got course corrected right at the last bit before they ended up hopping inside of the window. So there's some really, really good depth to Disrupt's game plans on offense so far. We just need to see it translated to their defensive setups. They talked about inside of that initial video that we watched from them that they really like this offensive side. They feel like they can game plan extremely well, and that, you know, their ability to play make on the offensive side is just very, very strong. So if we see the same thing on their defense, I could see Disrupt upsetting Soniqs here.
All right, guys. So keep in mind as well, this is that bit of a sleeper map here for the Disrupt roster. According to CGG, they have 0 plays on this map in the past, but it has been banned by opponents against OXG, TSM, and Tempo Storm. So a lot of teams choosing not to go up against Disrupt on this map, and I mean, we can kind of see why based on the first 5 rounds that we have played out here so far on map number 1.
I mean, I'll give it the benefit of the doubt. We don't see Thatcher too much on Oregon, so that could really be playing into something as well. You know what I mean? So, and until we have a bigger sample size, I really won't be able to tell you, because a lot of the matches that we have watched on Oregon, no matter what the region, Thatcher's off the board. He's still a super, super potent operator, so having access to him is definitely a plus for the offense.
Guys, well, a very quiet few opening seconds here of the round, as you can see. Once again, Disrupt very much favoring the intel game, as I think most, if not every single member of their team is on drones right now. You've got J90, I think, being the one rare exception to that, as he's going to move in here. He's got the can opener. He's going to quickly try to open up the hatch above electrical. And that will force Gomfy back to play closer to the pillar a little bit more here, as he has been doing for many, many attempts on this basement site already. Now keep in mind, this is the one that Soniqs have been able to successfully win, and that's because they did a good job at pinching the pressure that was coming in from the tunnel around the Disrupt there, and more importantly, they were able to waste a lot of the utility. Now Retro going to try to open things up here, go for an opening on the wall. And Nate is going to get chucked down as well. I'm not sure if those X-Cryos are going to kill the Melusi, but it might take it out here. Now, a little too far away from that, unfortunately, and I don't think it would deal the damage needed anyway. So that's still going to be a problem when they drop in. Slevin still has a safe position, but it may not remain safe for very long, as now they have access to throw flashbangs directly at him. Doesn't seem to matter, though. He's ready to take the fight anyway. Takes out Shuttle, and he's ready for more. Pre-aimed at that backstairs position, but it seems Disrupt are going to call it off for now, as Soniqs once again get the opening kill on the basement defense.
Very strong start for them leading into the last minute here. Stun grenade still for NJR as he burns out the shield. Still have a Nitro Cell in Iconic's hands, though, that he could use at any moment in time. Nitro Cell out. Does it get any kills? It does. J9 now down. 3 versus 5 as Disrupt has to try and force themselves onto the site. But there's still so much utility to worry about from the Sonic side that I don't know if this is even doable. Breaching around through just to make sure that there's no other utility. Get rid of the shield, but that's going to delay even longer now. The Sonics already set up with their crosses, so Disrupt have a lot of gunfights to try and win this round. If they don't end up winning this, it's going to be 4-2, but here we go, folks, into the pillar area, but taken down immediately. Almost able to get the kill as Slevin tries to kill his teammate, but doesn't even matter. Sonics all over the board, apparently not wanting to give Disrupt any more frags than needed.
Bit of a mad scramble there at the end of the round, but indeed, Soniqs with some very solid control over the basement site. Unfortunately, that's the only site that they're going to be able to get control over, as the half is now over. Soniqs have only been able to put up 2 rounds. It's enough, however, to run themselves a comeback if they can start off this second half in strong fashion. So let's see what they can offer us on attack, and if they can start to turn this scoreline around. Other than that, Disrupt come off with a very, very strong 4-2 lead off of their own attacking half.
This is going to be really, really telling of the impact that Thatcher's having on the offense, is how long Sonics can possibly run this back on the offensive side. So for the defense, we're seeing more of the same from Disrupt that we saw from the Sonics, mostly dedicated to that shield play. Some Mira in there for just a spark of action. Those Miras have actually been quite influential over these basement rounds so far. We've seen quite a few teams start bringing Mira a little bit more, some more game plans going around here, just because the defensive bans have opened up so much recently. It's nice to have some black mirrors get thrown down every once in a while.
And we're going to continue that trend, of course, onto round number 7 here, as J90 is going to immediately pick that up. We'll repeat with another basement round. Of course, it's now been unlocked since we're in the second half, and the teams on each side have flipped. The operator setup is looking very, very similar to what we saw from the Sonics, with the most notable change-up being that we are going to see a Valkyrie in play from Reed instead of the Melusi that was being used by the Sonics roster for the majority of their defenses on this site. Other than that, though, thematically, it's going to be pretty much the same thing that we saw from the Sonics. A lot of emphasis on electrical and pillar, along with, of course, just denying the tunnel outright from those two positions and trying to delay that push for as long as possible.
Okay, well, let's see how the Sonics fare on the offense now, as they've been let out the gates for the very first time. Defensive setup is looking more of the same as we were talking about. That's mostly been the meta run, honestly, here so far.
I think it's a little different on the freezer wall, because I think they put one of the mirrors on the freezer wall, if I'm looking at it right. Yeah, so they are going to do that.
Yeah, they
but
did.
Even that, other teams have done this too, so this isn't like too far out of the realm of possibility. Sonics will see this and be able to adjust their play pretty easily for this.
Yeah, kind of a pick your poison type of thing. You either put it inside of the closet or you throw it down on freezer. Either one is efficient enough. I mean, with the freezer angle, you're able to help out NJR, especially if he hops up on boost box. If anybody tries to pressure down the staircase, you're able to assist with that. There's a lot of positives either way you slice it. So Sonics now, though, minute off the board, working through the map, already have the drone set up, and are now onto the hard destruction part of their offensive set. So, got the hatches open. We'll see if they try and adjust anything later on here, as we still have a lot of work still to be done before it's time for execute.
A lot of work to be done indeed. Most of Sonic's still sitting upstairs. J9, yeah, I was wondering where that second mirror window was. We didn't get to take a look at the electrical closet, so I was thinking maybe it had gone down there, but it looks like it's a pocket mirror, in fact, waiting to see exactly where Sonics would attack. And I don't know if this is necessarily the right position for it, but we'll see, obviously, later on in the round if it'll hold true, due to the fact that a lot of the presence from the Sonics is looking like it's building up more towards that standard backstairs push that we were seeing a lot from Disrupt as well. But at the same time, minute and 15 left. We've got a good amount of delay capability still for the Sonics, or at least until that happened, we did. Retro gets absolutely destroyed by a grenade, and there go the other two smoke charges, and a lot of that delay potential as well. Not going to leave Disrupt in a great spot there, because Sonics do kind of have the right to initiate now if they want to push for it this early.
That's a lot of much needed tools off the board. That shotgun could play out that situation so well at the bottom of the stairs, but now the Sonics are all over the pillars area, as they're making quite a bit of progress here, but not before some frags come through for Disrupt. NJR picks one up from Freezer. He's on very low HP right now, as he's trying to pick up his second frag since the restart, as it's actually going to be Slevin to take down NJR. Freezer control now over to the Sonics as they wrap around the storage site. Reed picks up Slevin on the other end of the map, as Reed is actually also going to do double duty. Picks up his teammate as well. Nitro Cell goes out, but it's botched as it lays on the top of the filing cabinet. But J9 almost able to get 2 big kills. The mirror's been popped as well. Vector spewing bullets everywhere, but not able to make contact with Super. Super into the clutch with the AK high mag capacity weapon, which could assist him inside of this. But J9, the Vector, can he win it? He cannot. Super shuts him down and wins their first offensive round.
Good attempt from J9. Seems like that mirror window did get some use after all. Unfortunately, not enough to get the outright clutch in the 1v1s, and even getting some respect from Easily there as well. Either way, though, it's going to be a win for the Sonics. A very nice clutch by Super to play that out. Trying to run the tiebreaker out, of course, but ultimately getting the winning angle to close down the 1v1. Now, you're going to see that scoreline, like I said, get very, very close once again, as it was only a 2-round deficit. And with Sonics winning round number 1, it goes down to just that single round. For Disrupt, no reattempt is going to be made on the basement. Much like the Sonics, they are going to rotate right back up to the second floor to see if they'll have better luck defending there.
We'll have to see how it goes. We're going to have a 6 pick come out for the Kaid. Getting rid of that pulse for the defense. And yeah, that last round, not the greatest showing there for Disrupt. They got the round into the later half there, obviously into the late round, past that 1 minute, but that's not really what the problem was. The biggest issue for Disrupt was their utility usage when it came down to it. They botched a lot of utility that could have saved their round potential, but almost every single time we ended up seeing one of those pieces used, it was either botched or that person ended up dying while trying to use it. So I would have liked Disrupt to play that just a touch slower, especially with their smoke play over towards Pillar, just a touch too aggressive with so much time left on the board. And those smoke pieces of utility are so very important to the overall outcome of the round for the defense, especially on that basement site.
All right, guys, well, we've got the Sonics spawned out once again. Let's take a look at their strat. We are going to see Retro get a nice little Evil Eye camera there, although, did it just get destroyed? Where is it? I think the barrel broke, and I think that destroyed it. I could be wrong, but...
Okay, so I'm not gonna lie to you. Looked away at my notes for just a second, but if the barrel broke and it was on it, then it probably broke. Because if you break anything with anything
look
on
at
it,
it, look at it, look
oh,
at
it's
it.
in the barrel.
Can't see anything though.
Be the barrel. I mean, audio cue.
Yeah,
you know?
I guess, right?
I guess. Yeah. Hey, listen, it's not my camera. I don't know, man.
Well, maybe someone will run over it, clear out the debris. You know? Maybe
I hope
they'll
it's
get
for audio
lucky.
cue, because otherwise someone's pissed. That's all I know.
Moving a little bit deeper into the round, of course, we do see the Sonics putting some presence. Very similar to, again, what we saw from Disrupt on their opener. There's going to be a lot of people moving in from the west or small tower side of the map. And we are going to see, I think, a couple bits of pressure being put onto other points, but the main bulk of it, as you can see here, especially from Iconic's POV, is going to be pushing in that kitchen small tower side, eventually trying to get control over the kids' stairs, and of course, access from the big window on the roof as well will be the second entry point here.
Well, Disrupt.
No,
Just waiting right
you actually
now.
can see through that, it looks like. That might be client side.
Yeah, it's definitely client-side debris. That's unfortunate for all of us because we're not going to see what he sees, but we'll definitely see the Z ping. And if that camera has any effect outside, then someone will probably die or something crazy will happen. But for right now, Soniqs really dedicated to this double window push. They already have all of their utility set up downstairs. This might be a much quicker execute than we've seen Disrupt try and go for on their side once they were on the offense. So Soniqs right now, still plenty of time on the board to try and work this out, but lots of their utility already dedicated to the flank as well as trying to keep control of downstairs.
Down to the last minute of the round here. Quite a bit of utility being used, of course, but attackers still have plenty to work with, especially easily, of course, as this is on a cooldown. He's got free drone capability for the rest of the round. Retro's going to be able to strike first here, however, taking down Iconic, who was right in the front of the pack. So that's going to say bye-bye to the Zofia. No more stun grenades to come from her. Another trade, however, is going to be found by the Sonics as Super once again steps up to the plate here, but Shuttle also comes in to shut out easily before he can have any more impact. Omfi leaps into the fight here. He's going to be trying to make some impact of his own. It looks like he does get that kill onto Retro, but he's also going to get taken down by Shuttle. Disruptor very much holding their own. Super gets denied as he tries to push forward after getting the plant down onto the ground as well. Pull down onto Slevin now. He does have a good post-play position to work off of, though. Beautiful little shot there onto J9O to take him down. The flash is going to whiff a bit, which gives NJR the capability he needs to swing back out, take down Slevin, and of course, give Disrupt the time they need to counter defuse. That's another round for Disrupt, and they're going to inch closer and closer to victory off that.
Oh, Slevin's going to be kicking himself after that one. That round was actually really winnable when it came down to the 1 versus 3. Really, only thing he had to worry about was the mag capacity inside of his primary gun. But despite that, almost able to win it, just botched a stun grenade there. But for the Sonics, their dedication to their main call early on, not the worst thing to do, but it seemed to have hindered their progress throughout the round. We've seen Disrupt take their time when they're on offense, obviously, and work that information game, and then go into things knowing full good and well what's going to face them. When it came down to the Susquehanna Sonics, they were still able to get the diffuser down, but when it came down to it, it didn't seem like they knew the real positioning of Disrupt, and they were able to capitalize off of that quite often, and actually ended up turning the tide strictly because of that.
All right, guys, so Disrupt just 2 more rounds away from closing out their own map pick and, of course, giving themselves the series advantage. This is a best of 3, so they'll need 1 more to close it down. The Sonics continuing to run that gauntlet. They're back at the same advantage we started out the second half with, or disadvantage, I should say. We're going to see how they look to build upon that. Disrupt will not, again, reattempt the basement here, seeing as how Sonics are able to clear that out. Not too much of an issue. Disrupt doesn't feel super confident in their ability to win that right now. So they'll go to the first floor site that we'll have on this map, and it is going to be the two directly next to each other. It's going to be the cafeteria and kitchen hold here from Disrupt. Looks like it's being played in a pretty standard fashion as well. We've got the extended hold going out. It does look like the double walls in the cafeteria have been reinforced when I've pretty often seen the single wall get reinforced. And of course, the blaring issue is the fact that the main wall going to small tower is completely soft right now. So we'll have to wait and see how that'll end up working out for Disrupt here, because I doubt that's an accident.
It is not an accident. I think, again, delving into things here, I think that the main game plan for Disrupt is to delay as much time with showers as possible. I mean, look at the dedication of utility here from Disrupt. We've got shields, mute jammers, ADSs, the whole 9 yards here, folks, as well as utility dedicated to slowing down the push from the Sonics inside of the showers hallway. So lots of things from Disrupt focused on this area. And I think that their main thing is as long as they're able to control showers, they're still going to be able to prevent the plant. The real thing for the Sonics now, though, is how do you handle dining crosswise in order to safely get a diffuser down?
That's going to be an issue they'll have to figure out at some point here in the next 2 minutes. Sonics, of course, already working their way in, already being able to open up the softball. And it looks like already making an attempt at a plant here, whether they realized it or not. Trades are going off. Oh, and it did get denied, but with even trades to bring it into a 3v3. Big issue for the Sonics now is that diffuser is locked in the site, and I doubt they're getting it back without confrontation. Okay, maybe I'm wrong about that. It looks like Super's about to run in and get it, but let's hold my tongue here for a moment.
This is some very smart siege being played by Disrupt here. So many really good angles. Shuttle still downstairs inside a kitchen as Retro drops down into freezer to come up the freezer stairs. But this is the positioning that I was talking about. NJR has a hatch popped inside a kid's dorms, and he's just going to eat the legs alive of this player. But it doesn't even matter. Iconic's just better with the scope. And now Slebin's worked his way inside of dining as well. It's a 2 versus 2. But the Sonics don't really know where anyone is. Nitro sell out. Oh, right on the back end of it, Slebin. You had to hit that, but you still got plenty of time to try and win out this round, and you still have case control. So lots of positives here, but Shuttle on the pixel angle rips his head off and Disrupt on map point.
There's so many like instant kills on that round too. From both sides of the equation, we had players up on that hatch position. They finally got taken down by Iconic after he was able to get 2 or 3 of his own instant headshots into players trying to swing in there, and then the one at the very end as well. It was just not around for players who cannot aim with those headshots there as well. Anybody who wasn't pre-aimed was going down seconds after they made their peak happen. So things are going to continue to look great for Disrupt, though. After that little bit of an unorthodox hold on the double first floor site, worked out very well for them. We should, of course, mention, as the initial attempt from the Sonic got shut down pretty swiftly. Lost a couple players in the process, but the job got done. And then once the case was on the ground, they unfortunately weren't able to get it back after that. Made a valiant attempt at taking down Iconic, who was holding the angle on the case, but just wasn't enough to work it in the remaining 1v2 that we had at that point. 6-3 is now the scoreline. And as Stokes has mentioned before, Disrupt now only 1 more round away from closing out the map.
I've got a bone to pick with this offense, John.
Go ahead.
Let's talk about this for a second. So, the info game just not working for the Sonics, really in any regard into later into the round, especially when it comes to the execution times. I mean, Disrupt on every single front seemed to best them, and the main problem is for me with that is that you're putting easily now over onto Ayana, which is a really influential operator when it comes to the info game, especially with that hologram. You're able to get so much intel with her. Why are we going into a 1 versus 2 with a minute left on the board? That's a really big question. There was so much time for the Sonics to work that map out, figure out what was going on, and then game plan for that into their execute. They try to go for an early execute, just assuming that, hey, they're trying something funky. We can probably get an early plan as long as we have this line of sight to cover kitchen, but they weren't accounting for anything going on in the site, including the angle that we saw easily taken out from upstairs inside of kids' dorms. If they took the time to really, work out the site, know the angles that they're dealing with, I feel like the Sonics had a really good chance of winning that last round. I want to see them try and lean on that timer a little bit more and get this game plan set in stone before they progress.
Not disagreeing with you. I think you made some very good points there, in fact. There could have possibly been some misplaced confidence from the Sonics after what they did on round number 1, because they executed in a very similar fashion. They moved in with still well over a minute on the clock, but they had reason to at that point, if I remember correctly, because they already had an entry along with what seemed to be good intel as to what the site looked like. So it could have been possibly they were getting some similar feelings on that round, and that may have been why they felt the need to go in so early there. But I don't disagree with you in the points you made at all.
Well, thank you, man. I appreciate it.
take a look here. Obviously, a lot of pressure going onto the player under the back stairs right now, but it's the usual push from the attackers here. Nothing varying the formula too much. We've got 3 players trying to work their way in through tunnel, 1 working on the back stairs. And that back stairs player is the main issue for the one holding under it, of course, from the defense. Shuttle still holding very close to the issue as well, a little bit deeper down the tunnel, but Retro going to get pulled into this. He is the player at Harry Potter right now, trying to delay for as long as possible, and so far doing a pretty good job of that, although the real test hasn't really begun just yet. That may be coming over the next few moments here, especially now that Retro has lost the ADS under the stairs there. He's going to get a little nervous of a nade and probably back away from that to avoid it.
It could be a very big issue here, but Retro's already worked his way back towards the door, and he has a lot of pressure here. Oh no. Tries to run away, but actually just stuck inside the corner. Gonfi works his way in, almost able to get 2 frags there as NGR is worse for wear when it comes down to it, losing 75 HP points there. So DG not looking too hot coming into this last minute. The Soniqs in the lead and easily now in with the Yana. This is that info game that we needed to see. Still plenty of time on the board for them to try and figure out the rest of the positioning here for Disrupt, but they've already pushed them back onto their back heel easily. Now with the plant already halfway through it, and it doesn't seem that Disrupt is even ready. Nitro Cell out. Is it going to get him? It's not. Diffuser now down, and the Soniqs actually in a very strong post-plant position.
Soniqs with so much to work with here, despite just getting the minimal plant angle they needed to work for themselves here. Now going to begin to shut down the retake. Breed's the first victim of that. They do get some damage on the super, but it's not going to lead to much. Easily able to get himself a second shuttle. Finally takes down Slebin here. NGR trying to wrap around the corner as well, but he's going to be the last to fall as Easily gets his 3rd, I believe, on the round there, and Soniqs are able to pick up round number 10 for themselves. Seem to be the masters of the basement here as they've won the combined, I think, 4 rounds now, all on this site so far.
Well, you know what that means? We're probably going back up to kids' dorms for Disrupt, as they've had a pretty good showing on it so far. We'll say this, though, for the Soniqs, as much as we've been talking about their offense and how they need to try and produce inside of this map right now, they've gotten 3 plants down, so it's not all doom and gloom for the Soniqs. They've been able to, get at least the objective down and make these rounds close. It's just that info, like we saw influence heavily on that last round, has now been assisting them. And as long as they're able to continually do that, I feel like they have a really good chance to push this to overtime. We are going to have a 6 pick come in, though. Easily moving away from the Thatcher, picking up the Capitao. This is going to be headed in towards that kid's defense once again. Let's see if Disrupt sets up, or actually no, they're back downstairs. That's apologies on my end. Completely forgot that they could go back downstairs.
I don't think upstairs is locked. They should be able to go back up there, but
that's what I just assumed. That was on my end.
Maybe I'm either misremembering that, or they feel they can win this. Which, like, to be fair, so far it hasn't really looked that way. Soniqs have done a pretty convincing job of winning both the attack rounds here on the basement so far. It's just that outside of the basement, Soniqs, like you said, they've gotten a few plants, but outside of the actual success on basement, we just haven't seen much else from Soniqs on the other sites as of yet. So let's see if they can make it 5 here.
Apologies, buddy. Apologies. But what I was going to say is that it really seems as though Disrupt has been able to string Soniqs along while on, obviously, these sides. So Disrupt has done a very good job of just waiting for Soniqs to make the move and then crushing Soniqs when it comes down to it. It's been a really strong showing on the defense so far for Disrupt. The real thing that happened in that last round was that they just didn't have a chance for that retake. Soniqs had so many angles watching the avenues in which Disrupt wanted to use to try and battle back that there was no real way that they were going to just overpower the Soniqs. It came down to gunfights. It was mostly 50-50 stuff, but the Soniqs just better inside of that round.
We do have more wall denial coming into the picture here in the form of Reed. We haven't seen that traditionally in the past here from either Disrupt or the Soniqs, looking at the past rounds played on the basement. So this may be the reason why Disrupt felt they could jump back into it with relatively minimal issue, is that now they're going to bring some wall denial. Hopefully they can delay things a little bit more as a result of that. And that's especially true when it comes to the hatch work, of course, because that's just been free up until this point in the round. Now, it is a bit futile when you consider the fact that Thatcher is in play, but the good news is we've gone so long, I should say, without wall denial, that you just look at Soniqs roster, they haven't even brought in the Thatcher anymore because it hasn't even really been needed. They've just been getting all these walls open for free. Now that all of a sudden there is wall denial, well, you don't have the capability to counter it anymore on the Soniqs, and now they're going to be up against this very ugly issue. This could have been kind of a 300 IQ operator pick here from Disrupt.
Absolutely. We'll have to see how it works out for him. And with that off the field, they also have to worry about a lot of these mute jammers and everything else that's being brought that's electronic by Disrupt. But could have some big problems here for the defense. But Slebin and Gonfi have both been downed. NJR with some nice shots to follow that up. And now the Soniqs in a really, really bad position. Only Iconic can easily remain with 1:20 on the board for Disrupt to simply wait and watch. What can the Soniqs bring to the table here? Still plenty of utility for them to work with. But again, it's going to be this man count that really brings them a lot of problems.
Shuttle nearly giving his life away there. Easily is going to take that as a signal that no one else is watching down here, though, considering that was just a wild swing out the door. There was a player elsewhere in this room. Eid more than likely wouldn't have done that, so Easily is going to push forward on that and find success in being able to take down Shuttle. Knocks at the mirror window as well for greater angle play around this room. He's got to be very careful about the rest of this push, though, is from what you can see on the silhouette there. Iconic's not with him yet. He's very much doing this on his own, so until Iconic gets into that position, Easily kind of has to very carefully watch his footing here to make sure he doesn't overstep and kind of leave Iconic out to dry. Iconic's been unable to find any way in from the other stairwells, so he's just going to come right back, join up with Easily, and they're both going to push from backstairs, see if this works for them. Iconic already taking some heat as he moves in as well, losing a quarter of his HP. Iconic, though, makes it work, swings around the corner, loses his teammate, though, and Reed is going to be able to finish things off as he gets both of the kills at the end of the round, and of course, seals the deal on map number 1 for Disrupt. They're going to take it 6-4 as the final, or 7-4, excuse me, as the final score.
Really strong showing there from Disrupt. They said that they needed to work on their defense, and their defense looked really, really solid there. I think that